Welcome back, Schmoedown fans, to another episode of Beyond the Schmoedown. I'm Star Wars competitor Andrew Dimalanta.
And I'm Nicki Dimalanta.
So we have two matches to go over this week. Another live pay-per-view Throwdown. Yeah, big ones too. Very big, especially the main event. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right in. Was there anything that we had to discuss on this one? Sorry, this one's going up a little late, everybody. We ran into a couple problems.
You had a hard day yesterday. Just call a spade a spade. So, we just figure we'd do it today.
Life comes up at you fast.
Yeah.
So
things happen.
So let's go ahead and get into the first match, the undercard for the Throwdown. And again, if you have not seen the Throwdown,
don't watch this.
Don't watch this yet,
unless you want to know what happens. So
because this one will be going live to everybody on Friday, but you won't get it unless you want to see it ahead of time. Don't watch this. Pause this or whatever. That's your spoiler warning for this one. So the first match that we have to go into is the Pride versus Final Exam. And the Pride represents the Den, and Final Exam represents Swag. The Pride is, of course, Rachel the Switchblade Silvestrini. They officially changed her name to Switchblade.
And Ben the Bandit Goddard.
The Bandit.
And then we got Final Exam, who is Lon the Delinquent Harris, and Paul Primetime Oyama. So, we knew it was going to be a good one. So, round one.
Oh, yeah.
Round one. There were misses here and there. The thing that was kind of like, oh, no, was on the very last question.
That's right. Lon.
Because Rachel had missed a couple or whatever, and I think Lon had missed a couple or whatever.
I
don't know how many each. It might have just been one for one or both. I don't know. But the fact is, they didn't get perfect rounds. And Ben and Paul did. Yeah. And I guess, how they always do when they're like, X many more questions and so will have a perfect round.
Yeah.
And I guess that they were, kind of go ahead and saying that for Ben and Paul. And Lon kind of heard that. And I don't know if his character got in the way and he checked out, or he just, your brain just kind of, in the moment. And so they asked the last question. And they asked him, all right, Lon, your answer? And he's like, oh, what? And he starts writing down the answer.
He almost tries to cheat. It's like, oh, yeah, it's Mulan, right?
Well, because it was like, what's the Disney movie where you can hear the "Let's Get Down to Business" to defeat the Hun song? Yeah. Make a man out of you. That song. And
best. You can't.
It's like, who doesn't know that? Lon knew that. He just didn't write it down because he thought it was a bonus question, which sucks. And so they were like, even though he said it first and no one else said it, so you knew he knew it, but even though, he didn't write it down.
He didn't follow the rules.
He didn't follow the rules, so he didn't get it. So,
I was like, dude, come on.
Yeah,
like,
it sucks.
Luckily, it didn't come down to like a point.
Luckily.
But
that would have been sucky if it came down at one point.
Speaking of Mulan, do we want to pay like $30-something to see? I really want to see the live action Mulan.
I do too, but not for $30.
We'll just wait because usually it'll get on because it is airing on Disney Plus. It's just like you got to pay for it first. We'll get it we'll watch it when it comes free.
I could spend $30 on a lot of other things,
like wine.
$30 get me a lot of cheap wine. Just throw that out there. I could get a lot. So no. So yeah. So he didn't write it down, so he got it wrong because he didn't follow the rules of round one. He didn't write it down in time. So, but Paul and Ben did end up getting for perfect rounds. They both got the bonus. Yeah. So by the end of round one, it was 14-15 in favor of the Pride.
It's a good first round for both of them.
A good first round for both of them.
Couple of misses. I mean, Ben still is on that hot streak of because he's been. I think this is his second or third perfect round, I believe. Brain's all mush, but
barely even know what day it is anymore.
Thanks, Corona. But Paul too has been on a streak of perfect rounds. There's a lot of players that have streaks of perfect rounds. Perfect first rounds, I should say.
So round two, the Pride goes first. They get spy movies. They wanted to go first because Ben was saying, we're 0-2, or not 0-2, we're 2-0 with going first in round two.
Yeah.
So he wanted to hopefully keep the streak going. So they decided to go first. The Pride gets spy movies. They had a 2-point question about the mantra used in the Kingsman.
Oh, this one they gambled on the answer, and I say it is a gamble because they weren't sure about it, and it ended up being the completely wrong answer.
Yeah,
they weren't even close.
Because they said what I probably would have guessed if I had remembered the line that they said. They said, manners maketh man.
Yeah.
And when they said it, I was like,
it sounds
that sounds like their mantra, yeah.
But,
But I forgot that it was like a code that they use on the phone.
Yeah.
Was it really a mantra? Or was it more of a code
Yeah,
phrase?
now that I think about it,
it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, so I don't remember.
Yeah, and it like when I heard the correct answer, it was some kind of like I can't remember the true answer, but like when I heard, I was like, yeah, that is right, and I would argue like they would probably have the same mindset had they gone to multiple choices because they were like, it's probably this. We're not 100% sure, but we're gonna go ahead and swing on this. And had they gone multiple choice, I think they would have gotten it because they would have heard that like, oh no, it's that one. So that was a big gamble. Thankfully, it wasn't stolen. Thankfully, it wasn't stolen.
Well, I mean, do you want to wait until the team jumps back in? We could just do it now.
We can just do it now because
So yeah, when they brought Final Exam in, when Christian said, because obviously you're going to tell them what the other team with this weird Teams online virtual format, you have to tell them because if they were in the studio, they would have heard what they said. So Christian said, "Manners maketh men." He said it kind of quick, whatever.
Yeah.
And so Paul was like, "Oh, I think it's manners maketh man," like singular or whatever.
Yeah.
And Christian was like, "No, that's what they said."
Yeah.
But the weird thing is that they still went with the manners maketh
thing. Whatever Christian said, either man or men.
They said the other.
Either the plural or the singular, and they're like, nope, it's actually this. And I think everybody in the room was like, oh God, yeah.
So they didn't get a steal. There would have been a big 2-point steal, but they did not get it. So then the Pride, they go to multiple choice once, they get it. Yeah. They go to multiple choice another time, they missed it, and that one did get stolen by Final Exam. I don't remember what the movie was, but I think the answer was Kenneth Branagh. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't that Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yes.
Was it an actor question? Because I think Kenneth Branagh is Captain Holt.
Yeah.
I think we love Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
and I think
that's the guy that plays Captain Holt. Come at me,
Raymond Holt.
And then the Pride goes to multiple choice again, and they get that one.
Yeah, and that first miss, I think really it's like God, like it really shook them just because it's like they swung and completely missed, and they forgot like now maybe we should check down because the Kenneth Branagh one, I think that was Ben's initial like gut or something like that. Something he said like, oh, it doesn't sound like Kenneth Branagh, but it could be.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you should have gone with it, but like. It was just. It seemed like they were a different mindset after that first miss, because it's like, oh God, it just didn't go their way. And because he even said like, I'm gonna gamble on this one. I'm not gonna, let's take a chance on it. And it's just like it sucks when you're like, oh man,
it was a good guess.
It was a good guess, but like when you do something like that, as like when you swing for a 2-point miss and you end up missing it, and it's like, ugh. It really hits it like it messes with your head. It's like maybe I should go multiple choice, even though you know the answer now. Now they're less, what's the word I'm looking for? They're less like confident in their answers. It's like it's a 2-pointer. I know this one, but let's make 100% sure that we get
down.
So
and after they did take that chance, the interesting thing about round 2 was that. And while we were watching, we were like, wait a minute, what's happening? Kate was on the screen.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So Kate was accidentally left on the screen while
the question.
Final Exam had been dropped out.
Yeah.
And Kate, the manager, was still on the screen. And so after they had missed the Kingsman question, she was like, I said something about multiple choice.
Yeah.
And then by the 4th question, they were like, wait a minute, what
is Kate doing
dropped
here?
her off the screen. Yeah. So to make up for it, which I think is perfectly
it's fair.
It was the right thing to do, the fair thing to do. They dropped Winston out. They first brought the Final Exam back in to do the 2 potential steals. They dropped Winston out. And so it's just Final Exam. But when Final Exam went for their round 2, they brought Winston in for the first 4 questions, then dropped him out just like they had with Kate, just so everything was on the up and up.
Which this brings up an interesting question that I want to bring up. Why drop the managers out anyways? Because if these were studio matches or live events, they can still yell at them and go, don't forget your multiple choice. And they're not going to stop them from doing that. They I've heard people do that multiple. Like when we were in the studio match, people did that all the time.
They did?
Yeah. So it's like
it's been so long.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
So it's I would almost argue like why drop the managers out anyways? Because even if they like somehow like give them an answer, it's like all right, well you're showing that you're cheating.
Yeah.
So shut up. But like You know what I mean? It'd be easier to communicate challenges, manage your players better if they're in the room. Because
people really yelled out in studio matches.
Yeah, people say that all the time. Like managers stand off to the side and they basically coach their members.
They can do
while they're on
baseball things.
Yeah, well, but to a point you can, because like I would argue like the Star Wars match with Quevedo.
Yeah.
Guaranteed if Roxy was on screen, she would go, "Don't forget your multiple choice, buddy."
Yeah.
And like you know what I mean. Seeing this play the way it is, it's like, why drop the managers out? Because then they can manage their players better, and especially with people like Quevedo would be like, hey, and like you can obviously don't cheat and like, hey, buddy, the answer is this.
Well,
obviously you can't do that, but like things like don't forget your multiple choice, man. It's like, oh, okay, cool, and you get them back in the right mindset because you can still do it in studio matches.
I do not recall people yelling out about multiple choices in JTE's mid round. I don't remember that happening.
People do it all the time.
Really?
I mean, why wouldn't they?
I do not recall that happening.
This is a dumb argument. They're not going to do it, but
well, no, just because I remember when the Quevedo match, using that for an example,
Yeah.
I remember thinking,
oh, because in that exact match, Roxy was backstage going, "Hey, don't forget to tell him about his multiple choice." And,
Exactly.
And Carlos sent it, and he's like, "All right, I see Roxy wants to communicate with you. Don't forget your multiple choice."
Exactly.
And they still did it anyways. So why drop her out when she used to be on screen? It's like, hey, you know.
well, I remember saying during that match while we were talking about that match,
Yeah.
like, oh, under normal circumstances, when would it's not the host job to manage.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
We should move on because I'm
Yeah.
confused. Okay, well,
But that's it's just a fun little thing. It's like, why, you know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Just keep the manager on the screen so they can manage their player instead of, because they can still manage you through the text thing, but being somebody that's been competing in these digital matches, I never pay attention to the chat ever.
Yeah.
I'm focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So if your manager wants to say something to you, which that's the private chat is there for, it's going to be hard to communicate. But if they're on screen, they can communicate to you immediately. And challenges can happen immediately rather than, I want to bring your manager in. It's like, no, your manager is right there still.
Okay.
So it's just something that I wanted to bring up because it's an interesting point, I think.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and move on. Sorry.
So Final Exam got John Carpenter, and they crushed it. They got a perfect round 2. So by the end of round 2, it was 21-27 in favor of Final Exam. Round 3, the Pride goes first. They're 2-pointer. They get 80s, and they have Rachel answer it. Some question about Tango and Cash. She got it right. My mom hates that movie.
Tango and Cash?
Oh my God. She's always like, if you want to talk about the worst movie of all time, it's called Tango and Cash. My mom hates that movie. Oh my God. I don't know why. I've never seen it. 3-pointer for the Pride. Oscar Films goes to Ben, obviously.
No, Oscar films are a tough category.
Who got Best Oscar nomination or Best Actor nominations for Harvey and Anatomy of a Murder? Unfortunately, he missed it.
And I think this is the one I was probably talking about. He initially had in his gut like the correct answer, but then it's like, no, let's try this.
That is the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Because I think he went against his gut and he said, "Oh, that was my first, first thought."
Always go with your gut.
So his the Pride's 5-pointer was rom-coms.
Rom-coms.
And who plays Nelson Fox? Tom Hanks' father. I got auto-corrected. This is Room Hanks. Nelson Fox, Tom Hanks' father in You Got Mail. I gotta say, I've seen You Got Mail plenty of times, I think.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I've seen it. What?
I've seen it a handful of times.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time, but I don't even remember Tom Hanks having a father in that movie. So, it's the reason why certain people aren't on this show.
Yeah.
So they missed it, and so the final result was 23-27 Final Exam in a TKO.
TKO, and that's
3 points.
3 points for Swag, and then, but this is Swag's on a roll right now.
Yeah.
In a lot of divisions, so they move up the standings. I think at this point they went to second place. No, they were still in third by a couple of points.
Who?
Swag. They moved up in the state. I think they stayed in third.
After this one?
After this one.
I don't remember.
I can't remember the standings, but we'll get to where they are at the end of the next match. But Yeah, so
so what was the point of this match? This wasn't for like contender.
This is kind of like a mini gauntlet type of thing.
Okay.
Because now not Deep 13. Final Exam goes up against Shazam next week for the undercard next week.
Who the winner of that does what?
I think they're trying to get a number one contender match against Who's the Boss. I think that's what they're trying to do, because I think Who's the Boss is waiting in the wings for somebody for a number one contender shot, and they'll face the winners of the Corruption Founding Fathers Part 4.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's what's going. It's like a mini tournament before the actual tournament.
Yes.
So a gauntlet, if you will.
Yes.
But yeah.
We still have the wheel from the last Founding Fathers Corruption match in Orlando. We have it in our guest room.
Yes, yeah.
And we still have the original categories written on it too. I don't know why I haven't erased those yet.
We should display it. There's no way we can display it in here.
No. Not really. But we play with it with our daughter. We spin it and we tell her what color she landed on and what category she got.
We should actually write the colors on there, but
we should. But right now it's just like, you got Westerns.
Yeah, but Swag and Final Exam on a really big winning streak right now. Like, it's, when they first debuted, it's like, this is a dangerous team, but now they're looking like a really dangerous team.
Oh yeah.
And if they can outdo Swag next, not Swag. Wow, what am I saying? Shazam. Then it's like, okay.
I'm excited for that because we haven't seen Shazam.
Yeah, I'm excited for Shazam
in a while. I mean, the last time we saw Brendan and Bibiani was against Merle at the very beginning of the season, but they weren't playing as Shazam. They were playing as individuals.
And we saw Brendan in an exhibition match.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, or a while back. Again, I think it was New Releases exhibition with Perry Nemiroff and somebody else.
So I'm excited to see them play again because Shazam is always a pleasure to watch, and they're so good. So and Final Exam, they're on a streak right now.
Yeah.
So
this is the last. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the last we're going to see of Ben Goddard this season, because he's not in the singles tournament,
and he's not in the teams tournament.
They're not going to be in the teams tournament, and he, and the IG is done. So, I mean, and I would say the way this played out, if he was continuing to play next week and maybe play past the Shazam match, he would still have an argument for Rookie of the Year. I think that is gone.
Yeah,
there's no chance that he gets Rookie of the Year anymore.
Not being in singles and not being in teams is kind of puts a halt on that.
Yeah, and knowing Ben, he's probably like, I don't care. He's a team. He's a team player. He's doing whatever is the best for the team, for the Den, because they also have James White that's in the singles tournament, because I guarantee if they didn't have not guarantee, but if they didn't have James White on their team, maybe they put Ben in that spot.
I think so. I mean, I don't remember who else is on the Den.
Yeah, and you can't argue not putting the Den in the team tournament, because you have Tom and Paul sitting there waiting for their turn.
Oh yeah,
because we only saw them once,
and they didn't win.
Yeah,
and it was just
yeah.
I feel like I remember watching that match and being like, they just need to gel more. They just need to get a feel for each other more. So yeah, hopefully they've been practicing and getting a feel for each other, because I just remember being like, ooh, the chemistry is just so new. I can't wait to see what they're like later in the season. So hopefully we get to see a little bit of that, start to blossom in the team's tournament.
I am curious to see how far Final Exam goes. If they go pretty far with their winning streak, do they get out of the tournament? Because the same with the singles tournament, like you're guaranteed so many matches. If you play in this match, you can't enter into the tournament. I wonder if it's that way for the teams as well.
No idea.
So the teams is months down the road, so we'll get to it when we get to it.
So IG title match.
So before we get into the IG match, we actually sat down and talked with Nerd Chronic. We're bringing in guests differently now, just so we're not spending forgetting to talk about certain things. So we sat down and had an interview with the editor himself of the Schmoedown, Nerd Chronic, and we'll cut to that right now. All right, everyone, welcome to this interview. This first interview with the new format. We have the famous Schmoedown editor himself, Nerd Chronic. Thank you for joining us, man. We've been meaning to get you on the show forever.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. I've been really eager to jump on. I mean, I remember you started this shortly after we met or saw each other again at the awards earlier this year.
Yeah, we were.
And, you had mentioned trying to get guests on and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I imagine you've been really, really busy with everything that's happening to the show right now. Because there was a lull at a point. And then it just seemed to ramp up with everything. But I just want to hear the story with you and how you got involved with the Schmoedown, and editing for the show and everything. So where did it all start?
So I've told the story a couple times, but I love telling it because it's such such an important time in my life. Which is that in 2018, the start of 2018, like in February, is when they announced the first Schmoedown live event that was going to be happening in North Hollywood here, and that was it came at a point in my life where I just was kind of like at this kind of weird crossroads where it was a point where I felt like I really needed to do something different with my life. I had been doing a podcast for the last year or so with some friends. It was just like a casual thing we did every weekend to hang out and catch up on things. But I really wanted to push myself and to do something like more creative and more like impactful with myself. And again, it's like the weekend that I was kind of having that weird existential crisis. I saw the notice for the Schmoedown Live, and so I just told myself I'm just going to dive into it. I was like a casual fan of the show at that point, and so I said to myself, I'm just going to buy the VIP ticket. I'm going to go all in. So that's what I did, and I paid the full amount for the VIP to go sit the front rows with everyone. And I knew the show, like I said, casually. So when I first saw the lineup, which was the Wildberries versus Real Rejects, and then Roka versus JTE, it was I think, in my opinion, that's the perfect card to introduce anyone to the Schmoedown.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get the fun aspect there. You also get the stakes of the story and the characters and stuff like that. So it was the perfect night for me. And that night that was when I met Dwayne, my buddy Dwayne Burke, who is now working for the show, who has helped me a lot with the B-roll shooting stuff, and everyone knows him now. He's a great guy. And I met him that night. We were sitting in front of each other in the rows, and we started chatting about the show and stuff. And it was funny, that next day, literally the next day, it was the Saturday after that, I got invited to a press screening for Ready Player One. That was happening in Beverly Hills. And so I went over there, and Dwayne was there. He had also gotten invited. So we met each other there again, and we started talking again and hanging out a bit. And then I also ran into Janine the Machine, from the show, there with a buddy Raul. And that was, again, when I was still casually getting to the show. So I'd seen, I think, one match of hers at that point. And I started talking to her and our buddy Raul, and we're kind of mingling and doing social media stuff, and hey, let me follow you back and stuff. And so she gave me your Twitter handle, and I was like, oh, you're Janine the Machine, you're from the Schmoedown. And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I was at the event last night. She's like, oh, it's so cool. And so we started talking a bit and just hanging out. And then I found a mutual kinship with her because we're from the same hometown area in Central California.
Oh, nice.
And so that's kind of something that when we just kind of connected on, and we would talk to each other when we see each other at the events and stuff, and we kind of remember each other very quickly. And so for the next several months, we had 2 more events that year for the Schmoedown. We had 2 more events in the same venue at the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood, and I went to each one. So each time I went, from the first event to the third event that year, I would shoot stuff on my phone, just it's in the crowd, just videotaping the entrances and stuff on stage. And I would go home after that, and I was just so in love with the idea of the action of the show, that I started cutting together fan promos to put online. Cool. And yeah, so I just would cut together footage from what I shot with my phone that was at least not too spoilery, along with stuff from the show that I would just download off YouTube by myself, individually, and just cut together. And then I would put those on Twitter. And then right away from the first one, Christian found it and he retweeted it, and he said this is really great. I love these. And so I did it for the next subsequent ones, so the second and third one. He kept retweeting them every time, and he even messaged me, I think the second one, saying hey, can you send it to me directly so we can post it as an actual video for the show, for the Twitter account. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so that was kind of my life for the next several months, just hopping between events and doing this, meeting people and stuff like that, just trying to be creative and productive myself. And then in October that year, Janine had an art show in Fresno, which is our kind of our home area. And so I happened to be home that weekend, and I went over there to go, support her and see the art and stuff. And I actually ended up buying her Pennywise painting that she had on display there. So I bought it. I couldn't take it home with me that night, and so I had to leave the next day. So I messaged her. I said, hey, I bought your art because I love it so much, and it's going to be a gift for someone. But I couldn't grab it before I left. Could you possibly bring it next time you're in LA, and I'll just grab it from you. We're planning to go to maybe Horror Nights with Lead to the Party that weekend or that month as well. And she's like, yeah, actually, I'm going to be in town this weekend to tape a match. Do you want to come to the studio and watch? And I'll speak to you then. I was like, yeah, absolutely. So that was my first in to being in the studio and stuff. And When I got there, it was like that thing. Like I don't know if you guys experienced this. A lot of people say they do. When you get there for the first time, you just kind of walk in and like no one really like greets you, not in like a negative way, but they're just kind of like you just like act like you just belong there. So it's like you're just like am I supposed to like just hang out? I guess like I just here among everyone. Yeah, it's very casual. So like when you walk in, it's kind of like a weird like way to acclimate yourself to the whole like culture of it. And so I walked in and like Mark Ellis greeted me. He's like, "Hey man, like what's up?" And he's just like that, like that's it. Like you just it's like I was like, "Hey," and then Janine showed up. And I started talking to her, and Raul showed up again. And we're like, Raul's been a good friend of ours. That's kind of like been my touchstone, like my guy who I just look for every time at these events. Just he's such a lovely dude. And then Christian showed up. Christian walked in and like he saw me. He's like, "Oh hey man, like how you doing? It's good to see you." And so he recognized me.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, "Oh, hey, it's like good to see you." He's like, and he said right away, he's like, "Hey, when you get a chance, let me talk to you when you have some free time."
Nice.
And I was like, "All right." So like shortly after that, I think like half an hour later, we went to his office and we sat down. And he's like, "I love what you're doing with the promos. Like I think like they're fantastic. Would you be interested in cutting the promos full time like next season and when we start in January?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes, like 100%, absolutely." He's like, "Great, like let's do like a trial run for now. Like keep doing what you're doing." Obviously we have like some events coming up. Like I think at that time we were getting ready for the singles tournament and Roka versus Bibiani for the belt at that point. And so I did. So those were my first two like temp promos to do for the show in like some sort of like unofficial capacity. Like I did like the promo, like a small promo for Roka versus Bibiani, and then like the singles tournament coming up. And then and he really liked them. And then that December we did Spectacular 3, and that was my first like really like big test. That was my big test, like see like how I can hang with like what Christian called the big dance to me. Yeah. And so it was like it was 6 promos, like all story based, to kind of like sum up everything. And like I had like a hell of a time putting those together, but it was like the perfect way to just dive into it. It's like a crash course and like getting myself involved with the show to like a bigger extent. And luckily it all paid off. I think those promos like came out like pretty well for my first go around with like a big event like that. And then the following January of 2019, that's when I started working for the show, like in like a full-time capacity, like for the promo specifically at that point. Yeah.
Nice.
That is awesome.
That's an amazing story. Just go from being a fan to like actually
like sitting in Christian's office, like, "Hey man, you want a job?"
yeah. It was very surreal. Yeah, it was really surreal when that happened.
Yeah. So you officially came on as like you're editing everything. It was this season, right? How is that process coming from like just promos to like, all right, now I have to tackle everything, like the matches, and how does that workflow work really? Because I know the big reason they had to switch was because of workflow, because the old editor was all the way here in Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then that was the thing. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because not Michael Anderson, sorry, Aaron Wilhelm. He was the previous editor for the show for the last like several seasons, and so like I do want to shout out to him, like any chance I get, that he built like the foundation that we're on right now, and a lot of like terms like just the aesthetic and like the look and like the workflow that we kind of had bringing it into this, and like the way the matches just kind of have been formed over the last several years. And so taking that on for myself, it was like a learning curve, but luckily I was able to branch out to him, and I said like, "Hey man, like look, like I appreciate everything you did, like like I'm definitely in your shadow in this, so like I would appreciate any help you can get." And he was very nice about it. He's like, he understood. He like gave me like any assets I needed to like kind of help get started. And so yeah, I was able to take that on in January this year, or February, I think, when we started. The last thing he did was the New York show this year, and right after that, for the season, I got started on the main matches for the studio. And yeah, it was a learning curve just to get for myself a workflow that I was comfortable with to crank out everything in like a very like timely manner. Because like there's a lot of work to do. Like I'm doing now the show itself in terms of the full edit, and now the promos, which are two very different things, and they're both very, very time consuming. The show edit is time consuming in the sense that it's just a lot of stuff to put in. It's a lot of stuff to put together.
A lot of lower thirds, a lot of questions.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a lot of moving parts to kind of piece together and like in a really build the product. But then so comparatively, the promos aren't as extensive. Like they're like 2-3 minute pieces, but they're as time consuming because they're like, much more creative. Like it's not just like building blocks. It's like it's like mold. It's like clay. I have to like kind of form something out of like nothing for the most part.
Yeah, a bunch of hits and risers and falls and timing and
It's a big creative process. So like both are very fulfilling and challenging in their own way. So like the right now, it feels like this year I am being like, kind of like ping pong back and forth between those two. But I do enjoy it a lot. I mean, I they say, like if you do what you love, if you have a job doing what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And so like that's kind of like the mentality I've had for this past year. Like it's very arduous, but every day that I sit down to edit, like I'm having like a good time. Like I enjoy doing the edits for the matches and promos and like everything. It's just something I love doing. And luckily there hasn't been a day yet, even with everything going on, where I'm like, oh, like I got to get back to this. Like no, like I definitely every time I sit down to start doing the edit, like I have like this kind of surge of energy to get back to it.
Yeah, we see that difference with us too, because like I've tried to mold the show in an organic way, but it's like, well, that's not what people are here for. It's like just put the lower thirds in and then let the podcast sort of edit itself. But I'm interested in seeing how like we went from editing live events to studio matches, and now then COVID hits, and now it's all digital. Like, what's the biggest difference between the studio and the digital era of the Schmoedown right now? Like editing wise.
The thing is, so the studios, like it's kind of like they both have their pros and cons. So the studio one, it's nice to have the multiple camera angles that we can work with, and like so that like again, it's like a double-edged sword. The pro of that is I get to play around with like more creative visual style of it, like people answering left, answering right, camera center, the commentators, the wide, all that stuff. I can like kind of weave around like a more dynamic setting for the show and make it look good.
And you can hide
with the digital things that
you can hide your edits.
Hide the edits. Yeah, exactly.
You can't do that visual.
I can like gloss over those much more easy. With digital, it's just the one thing on everyone, and like the edits are much more glaring when you see them. But conversely, but then the studio matches, they're very bulky in terms of like footage. So like if you have a lot of cameras, like they're all like it's a heavy footage. We shoot like 6 matches a day. That's literally like hundreds of gigabytes that are being transferred like every time we shoot. So like we had to I had to have a space for that. And so, like, again, conversely, the nice thing about digital is it's one file that I just get, and like it's just there. It's like a few gigabytes that I just had to work with now. But the studio though, I think the biggest thing that for me shifting over when we had to kind of pivot in this whole thing was learning how to make the show look good, like period, with like a digital format. Because like it's hard. It was a difficult thing to learn and to like get right at first, because we didn't know how the audience would accept like this kind of format, because like it's just not as, like I said, it's just not as dynamic. It's just not as like, it doesn't have the scale of what we want right now. But luckily, I think the audience has like acclimated to it, and I think they're starting to accept it like at least in a way where like it's entertaining now, and like they kind of like, it's like we have gotten used to it. Like we overlook the fact that we're looking at digital screens now. It's just the show again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the way it is. I mean, you said like I don't care if it's digital. Yeah, it's like it's
as long as it's Schmoedown.
It's Schmoedown. I think the fans have gotten over, because the trial run, so to speak, with the exhibition matches, like it could work, but then the exhibition matches went over so well.
It all works.
And it's like, all right, let's run this. And the Star Wars tournament went over really well. The IG went over really well, and then it's like, all right, we have to go digital with everything else. So I guess just accepting this new format was, in my like hindsight's 2020, I don't think it was ever a deal with fans. Like, as long as we're getting matches, as long as we're getting stuff.
Because I couldn't imagine if it was like, all right, well, we'll just wait until Corona goes away. Well, I couldn't imagine. It'd be so empty.
And that's a big credit to Christian. Like Christian, like he, as hard as this thing can be sometimes to like figure it out, or like to like get over with like the fans in certain ways, like he'll never let it die. Like he's the type of guy that I do admire, in the sense that he loves this product, he loves this thing so much that he'll fight tooth and nail to make sure like it gets out to the fans somehow. And like I was really happy to be a part of that when all this started going down, because otherwise, I look left and right, like my friends and family are all losing jobs and like going through hard times. And so I was like really happy that I'm hoping not talking too much out of school, like but he told me like when we started like to pivot in a sense, he's like, hey man, like look, like we're gonna make this work no matter what. So like, you don't have to worry about anything. You're not going anywhere.
Nice.
That's good to know, because I'm in the wedding videography business, and that's taken a huge hit.
Yeah,
it's taken a huge hit. So it's great that you still get to be a part of it. And I wanted to, so while we're on the topic of the like pivoting after something's come up, you were going to be a competitor this season.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
But since you're a full-time editor and you have access to the document, the infamous questions document, you couldn't take part. Like, is competing still like a desire of yours? Do you at some point want to like step away from the editing at some point and just like, let me do like maybe a run and then get back to the editing?
I'll say first and foremost, Christian, you don't have to worry. I will never step away from the editing. You don't have to worry about that. I will always prioritize the editing and like the behind the scenes job first, because Christian has always like been very kind to me, and he's always like said like he fought for me to be like the lead editor for this transition into Skybound. Like, obviously Skybound's been very helpful. Like, I'm not saying like they're like have any other ulterior motives in any way, but obviously when they approached him, they said like, hey, like, we'll get you an editor, to handle the show. And he was like, no, like, I want like my guy, like I want like Eric to do it. And so he like pushed for me to be the editor, because he told me like, I need like, you understand the show in a way that I know that they don't yet, and so like I need you for this transition. And so he was very adamant about me being the editor for the show when we got into this year. And I always appreciate that. So when he called me and he said like, hey man, like, I don't know if it's going to work for you competing as well as editing, just because you're going to be able to see the questions ahead of time. And, like, maybe there's good faith, but like, for the sake, just to be safe, like, and for everyone else's peace of mind, like, I can't like have access to that and like, and say like, I'm just like not looking or something, just so everyone can be sure that everything's fair. And so like, I told him like right away, I was like, yeah, I understand, like, it makes sense. Like, and so I wanted to like, definitely be the editor and stuff. And like, it's a big career opportunity for me. And I called Shannon like immediately after that, and I was like, hey, like, look, like, I told her like, fortunately Christian, I called, so like, I have to have access to the question document for the workflow. So it's a conflict of interest, and she understood right away. She's like, that totally makes sense, and she was very very nice about it, despite her persona. And she's super sweet. But she was very understanding. So like, when I had to break that to her and to everyone else online, it was tough. And like, people ask me still like, do I want to compete, and like, is it something I still have my eye on? And like, in general, yes, like, I would love to compete, and like, that's never, don't think it's ever going to go away. And like, it truthfully was heartbreaking, because it was like, I think anyone who watches the Schmoedown with a competitive nature, like, and a love for film, like, thinks like, I would love to do that one day. Like, I think everyone has that sense of like, I would love to be involved with it in the competitive capacity. And so I was there, like, I had it in my grasp, and to have it kind of like not taken away, but like, like a shift in a way where like I had to choose not to take it for the betterment of the show. It does sting, but I do think that it's the best decision for everyone, and especially now, like in hindsight, like, thank God I took it, because like, I don't know, like, if anyone, truthfully, like, not to pat myself on the back too much, but I don't know if anyone else has the work ethic to handle what the show has thrown at us this year with like the way the world has changed. And so like, I'm very glad for myself and the show that I took the job the way I did, because like, now we're here and we're able to still enjoy the show like 6 months later, and like, I'm very grateful that it all worked out in that way.
Yeah, and just speaking for both of us, we're extremely grateful that you're part of the show, because we've said it like after every like entrance and all the matches, like, that promo
so good.
Always works. It always hits. Like, I want to know, just because editing, one editor to another, I mean, different industries, but editing, there's certain beats that you have to hit with any kind of edit. Where do you start? Like, do you like look at all the promos, all the footage that everybody sends you? Because right now, like, competitors film their own stuff, and then like, and they send it to you, and it's like, do you look at everything and then like, oh, that look at here? Where does the process start for you? Like, all right, that looks good there, and let me put this over here. Like how do you come up with? Because I'm picking your brain right now. Picking up any kind of editing tips I can get.
Yeah, I always love talking to people who know the craft, like, because they kind of understand the ins and outs of this. But usually, so particularly now, everyone sends me their stuff. So like, and we're handling a lot of stuff. So again, like a big shout out to Skybound because they wrangle all that for me to like get all the stuff in, so they can send it to me in like one dedicated space. I can grab it, pull it, and like get to work with it. Yeah, so when I get the material from each competitor and the managers, ideally, I will sit and listen to it and listen to like what they say, their spiels, and like if they have any creative like mic drops, like in particular that I see that them like want to really like try for, like like particularly like with you, Andrew, like let's get ready to hunt, like that type of thing.
Yeah,
like that is obviously like a big mic drop moment. Like I want to make sure I prioritize that in a way that's creatively impactful, like in the promo. So I keep those in mind as I watch them and like kind of just log them in my brain. And then the next step after that, right after that, is finding the right music, because like the music I think is like the biggest key like to anything. So like, for the promos, like as like great as I can make them look, the music carries it. I think more than anything. Yeah. Because I think that's it. The music has to match exactly what the audience needs to feel like for the stakes of the event. Obviously, if it's a more casual match, it might be something that's a little more like just like rocky or like just kind of like get some energy up. Whereas if it's a higher stakes match, it has to be something like maybe heavy or like maybe something like a little more high energy, depending on who's involved, depending on the characters. And I have a lot of fun with like the fun teams like Rejects, the Wild Berries, Late to the Party, when they have like their matches, because I get to have a lot of fun with them with the music and the promos and the style and the vibe. And so combining those two, I make sure that I have the right music to play out something that matches, again, the mic drop moments that you have in terms of like the crescendos and the highs and lows and the beat in the music, because then I'm able to kind of structure that around. I'm able to have like as soon as I piece it together in my mind, I'm able to say like, okay, I definitely want like this line, like this moment in music, and I'll place it there, and that's like a little like marker for me. Yeah. And then like I kind of start building around that. And for the narrative, in particular, like the narrative, then like kind of fills in like a lot of blanks between that.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like what I do.
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
Because she sits next to me while I edit.
I've watched him do his stuff before. I don't understand it, but I'm like, yeah, it sounds pretty familiar.
It's like, I really want this moment to play out right here. Let me just place that and then edit around it, basically, and just build. Like, it sounds weird because, like, most of the people that I talked to before, like, they're in the business are like, I lay everything out, just boom, and then, like, move things around. It's like, that sounds insanely tasking, and it takes more time than you need. And rather than knowing, like, I want this beat here, let me place that there and then see how I can build to that. That's pretty much exactly how I work. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any?
Oh, yeah. I got on this topic. Yeah, I kind of have a question, and you've probably been asked this before, so sorry if you have.
No problem at all.
But like, I know with Andrew, he's made however many wedding videos he's made, and he's made however many personal projects that we've done for fun over the years that he's made, and while somebody like me or somebody else watching them, they'll be like, oh, they're all so great, wow, Andrew, that's great. But for him, there's always, for the artist, there's always like, yeah, they're great and everything, but I'm not crazy about that one. That one's my favorite. I wonder, do you have like a promo that's like, that's my baby?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Like, is there a promo that's like, oh yeah, that's the one I'm proud of?
Yeah. There's thankfully a handful at this point. There's like some that there's like obviously some that I put a little more effort into because of, again, what's at stake. Like for if it's for a spectacular or if it's for like a big like throwdown event, something like that. And like they all are different in several ways. It's like my children. Like I can't pick one. Like I can't just pick between one or the over the other. Sorry, did I lose you guys?
No.
Oh no, yeah, we're good. Here.
Okay, sorry. You laughed. I couldn't tell if I didn't hear anything. I thought the mic dropped. Okay. But yeah, the ones that come to mind, which I kind of glean off of other people, is like the Guy Bateman promo from Houston. Nice. That's I think the first one that Christian called me and with Dagnino in the car, and he was like, "Hey man, like first he like trolled me. He's like, hey, like I want to tell you, like the promo's great. There's one thing wrong with it." I was like, "Oh no, what?" He's like, "No, I'm just kidding. there's nothing wrong with it." And so he said he loved it. He said it was like at that point he was my like my Mona Lisa or something like that. Yeah. Like he loved it so much. And that was, I think, to me, truthfully, that was in April, I think, or like May. Mm-hmm. And that was like again like the second or third live event we done that year. And that was, I think, the first go around cutting promos for the show where like I really leaned on the like WWE like style of it, like the kind of musical dependent style of it. Because before that, I had done like a lot of the match promos, which are like the green screen ones, and like those again, like they lean heavily more on like the competitors, like speaking to the camera, and like the narrative, kind of like just explaining what things are with like some creative style to it. Whereas this one, we didn't have that, so it was the task of putting together a compelling short form narrative telling their story, which is very big, in a concise format, and with like the kind of creative style that you need for like a wrestling ring WWE event type of match.
Yeah.
And luckily at that point, like shortly before that, I think WWE had the women's WrestleMania event that they had that year, which was like Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and I forget her name, Ric Flair's daughter. I forget her name. But they had that main event where it's like 3 women going at it, and the promo for that was a huge inspiration to me, because like it's just like it had the music, it had the action, it had like the narrative, it had the sound bites that it needed. And luckily that came at the right time, where like I pulled inspiration from that, and I didn't want to bite it off like exactly, but I just looked at it and I watched it several times. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is definitely what I want to do with the show. And so when I had that for Guy vs. Bateman, that was also the first time I was able to use slow motion B-roll that we had shot in the studio.
Nice.
Because before that we weren't doing that. So like I had luckily a good friend of ours, David Michael Frank, who handled some of the social media stuff for us, and he did a lot of B-roll for like big live events and some of the studio tapings. He shot that for me as like a favor. I was like, hey, it's like an idea that I had. I was like, hey man, like could you possibly shoot like the entrances at like 120 frames per second, and I'll just use it, see if I can use it for the promos. And he's like, yeah, sure. So we shot the match between Bateman and Guy, the teams match that they did earlier that year.
Yeah.
It was like Danino, McQueenie, like all that. And I had that in my back pocket for like the next couple months. And so when this event came up, I was like, I got to use it now. Like this is the time.
Yeah.
And luckily that was like the big culmination of like everything. That was the culmination of like me realizing what I wanted to do with the promos, like the style, and also being able to utilize like the tools that I wanted to have. And so that is, I think, what started the foundation for like what we know now for like, you know, Smets versus Guy, and like, you know, Roku versus Irwin and stuff. Like that was like kind of the first one. So that's like the beginning of that. And then since then, you know, I again like have a lot like against Smets versus Kalinowski at Collision, and then Spectacular, the one we just did, Roku versus Irwin. I'm really proud of the one Guy versus Bateman versus Morrill in Atlanta this year.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, because like it was just it was like, again, Christian said, it was like one of the biggest matches we've ever had. It was like The Rock versus forgot what I don't want to say John Cena. But, someone said like New Blood versus Old Blood.
I think it was Hogan versus Rock.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that was the big one, and so like I was really proud to like kind of execute that in a way that I felt very proud of it.
Nice. So I find myself, when I'm editing anything that like would be wedding videos, personal projects, like I always find myself going, I don't like it, but that's the best it's gonna be. Do you ever find yourself like, it's like, I love this piece, but like, that frame is too long, or this edit needs to be, I wish I would have done this. Do you find yourself doing that sometimes, where it's like, I wish I had a shot of this person doing this, or yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely, all the time. Like I would, it's like driving up the wall that we don't have any slow motion B-roll of Morrill and Roca winning the team's belt in Orlando.
That's right.
Like we don't, like, because Dwayne couldn't make it. Dwayne was my guy who would do that, and he couldn't make it out to that one. Like I don't blame him at all. Like, you know, it's money and it's time. That was before he was like working for the show, and so like he just did all that like on his own dime and with his own time, and so like he couldn't make it. So I was like, no problem, man. Like just work with it. And so, but it does like suck so much. Like I wish I had like some like awesome footage of like them winning that belt. Like, you know, it would look so great.
You should have hit me up, man. We were there. I have a.
Yeah, I know. In hindsight, I definitely would have. Like I see. Like, it's funny because as soon as I saw you in the audience of that taping, I was sitting with my sister watching it. I was like I should have asked him. Like I should have hit him. I know he would have done it. Like,
I would have totally done it. Just like I would have like. It would have been felt like yo, I'm working, but I'm working with the Schmoedown right now. It'd been so cool to do that. But
there's a Florida event, and as long as he's not on stage, let us know.
Yeah, as long as I'm not competing, I'll do it.
Yeah, maybe I'll hit you up as like one of my East Coast guys if you're over there. Yeah, it's like that, and then like funny enough, like yeah, you mentioned like if there's like this frame is just like too long or something like that. Like yeah, it's funny. I go over that a lot, and I think you understand, Andrew. Which is like there's times when you're editing, like you'll get stuck on like 1 second of something where you're like something's not working. Like the flow is just wrong. Like it's if it's like 2 frames too long, if it's 2 frames too short, and like you go back and forth, like different variations of like frame here, frame there, like cut like back and forth, and you're just like something's not right. But then when you do find it and it clicks, you're just like that's it. Like you know it. Like, you know that's what it's meant to be. Like and it works. Like in your brain just sees it in a way where it's flowing like perfectly. Yeah. And so yeah, I go over that a lot with like some of the edits where I'm just like this is like something just not clicking here. Then when I do find it, it's super satisfying. Yeah. I think the worst times is when doing a promo for like say a big live event coming up, and like the night before, like I'm kind of like halfway through it, and I'm just like this isn't working. Like it's just not working for me. Like and so I have to, and primarily usually it's the music, and the music is just not doing it for me. And so I got to start over. So like there have been nights like the night before, like in the like 2 a.m. like before the event starts, like the next day, I scrap it. I'm just like I gotta scrap it. Like this is not working. I gotta throw away like the music and everything and start from scratch. And I just start and I just work all night like doing it from scratch. And I did that with Bateman and Merle, like I just mentioned, like the night before. Like I had a set of music that I was working with. I was like, this is just not hitting it in like the way I know it needs to. And so like luckily I scrapped it. I kind of like gave myself a small breather. And then I went through my collection of music that I have, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is definitely the track that's going to do it. And like, I ran with it from there, and I was able to get it out in time. And it's just those moments that really grind your gears when you try to find like, the perfect set of things, of tools to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens to me. Like, that's happened to me on like 4 projects. Like, this just it's not working. It's not like, and I did it with our because I did Your Best, our the godparents of our daughter. I did their wedding. And I finished. I got all the way up to like maybe like the second rough edit, and I was like, "This doesn't work." And it was the music. Yeah. This music doesn't fit them at all. So I was like, and they chose it. I was like, "No, this song is not you." I made an executive decision, completely scrapped it, and started over. And it's like, "This is you." So and like for anybody that works in like the creative industry, graphic designers, photographers, editors, everybody that I talk to, it's like it's a lot of redo, undo. Redo, undo, redo, undo. It's like, is it this or is it that? Is it this or is it that? And it's like, it's like looking at a mirror right now. It's like, yep, I do that with almost every project. It's like, this is 2 frames too long, or it's 2 frames too short. I wish this would be a little bit louder or a little bit softer. It's just every time, it's without fail in any project.
And everyone thinks it's so easy, like just press a button. Yeah,
and that's do you get that misconception a lot? Because a lot of the friends that are in our circle and people that I've worked with, clients that I've worked with in the past, because I also do corporate videography. Clients in the past have been like, yeah, we'll just do this, and then like every time the words "just do this" come up, it's like that's 10 hours of work. Right there.
Yeah.
Our friends have a joke where they're like, just press the Photoshop button, Andrew. Come on.
It's not that simple. It's not that simple.
It's funny because working in LA, I have a lot of friends who work in the creative space, so they understand like what goes into editing and stuff. And so, but the people who, again, the flip side of that is the people who I have had the most trouble with are the people like who are higher up. Like I work with producers who are like, hey, can you just like do this thing? And I was like, no, like it doesn't work like that. Like I used to work for a studio in Beverly Hills for several years when I first moved out here after I was done with college, where it was like a very ramshackle production, but it was like produced by and owned by a multi-billionaire. His name was Alki David. And like I have no problem saying that because he's like he's never gonna find us. And he's off like on some island somewhere, like hanging out, evading taxes and stuff. And like the thing is, like he paid everything out of pocket, and that was the thing. Like it was his own little like production. Like everything we did funded was like literally out of his own money. Yeah. He's the heir to the Coca-Cola bottling company. Oh, and wow. So he just has like that kind of money.
Yeah.
And so he would just like throw money at anything that came out of his head. And he like I think one time we had a there's a documentary about it, so everything I'm saying is like literally public knowledge. We had like literally an underground fight club that he wanted to like have one night where with Rampage Jackson. And so it was like in a parking garage with like a ring that they had set up with like like with a cage.
God.
And he wanted B-roll of like the crowd there like cheering, and all we had was like shots from inside the cage, looking out at the crowd, so the cage was in the way, it's like between them and the crowd. And he was looking at the footage. He's like, "Can you remove the cage from the crowd?" And I was like, we were like, no. He's like, "Can you just like when you green screen it, can you just like green screen out the cage like from in front of the crowd?" We're like, "Aki, like no, that's not not how that works." And like he's like, and it always took him a second to like understand it, but then at the end he was okay.
Just do this.
Yeah, just like anytime anybody ever says like, just do this, it's like, do you realize just doing this means I have to go back, start over, and do? It's just it's just funny sometimes how people think how things work is complete opposite of how it works.
Yeah, and then at that same company, we had another producer who I won't say his name, but he would handle a lot of the shows for us the way we're editing, and we were doing something that was very green screen heavy, and the green screen that they had shot and given to us like wasn't the best. Like it was just like wasn't like lit properly, and like we could only do so much with like the keying and stuff, and it looked what it looked like, and we're like, hey, like this is the kind of best we can get it right now, finessing it, and he's like, it's like, can you do like a little more? I was like, well, like we really tried. And he's like, he said, "Here, just give it to me, and I'll put it in the Final Cut, and I'll do it." And so all right. So we gave him the footage, and like he went to his office, and like later that day, like 2 hours later, he came back. He's like, "It looks fine."
Oh man, that's
funny how that works.
It's funny how people think they know better, but it's like we've been doing. We tried, man. We tried.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Any other thing that you wanna?
No, I was gonna ask like if you had like a favorite competitor, but I don't want to put you in that position of like a favorite when you're like, ooh, somebody that's like, ooh, I can't wait to do a promo for that person.
You got one competitor staring right at you, man.
No, but I will say though, I will say, Andrew, like out of the Star Wars stuff, like everyone did a great job, like really, they really did. But like I appreciate just your production value because
thank you.
I know you have like that very nice like Blackmagic camera, and like I know you have your audio, your mic set up, and everything. So like obviously, if everyone could do it like that, that would be like a blessing. How we have to work with everyone working with like professional cameras and mic equipment. Like that would be so nice, as opposed to people like outside with like construction going on and everything. Like
with their cell phones.
Kaiser with a cell phone.
I don't mind it because it works for some people. Like it's their style, and like it adds to the comedy of it. So like but for your thing, it was like super nice to cut like with your promos because like everything was so crisp.
Thank you. I pride that's something I pride myself on. It's like our shows might not be the highest rated on YouTube, and but say what you will about the conversation.
Look good.
It'll look good when you're watching it.
I'm been meaning to hit you up. I'm definitely gonna pick your brain about some of this stuff like in like the near future.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm here for it. We had this conversation when we met each other first. Like, you need visual effects stuff. How it's not my profession, but it's something I'm very passionate about. Something
I definitely kept in mind. I was hoping to have in my back pocket until the world ended.
Hopefully we'll get back to that, because I've been dying to not only as being a competitor was something that I was so happy to be a part of, but I always wanted to give something back to the Schmoedown, because it's given us so much entertainment and so much time to focus on something. I wanted to just give back to it. It's like, and I actually told Christian, it's like, if you need me for anything, editing, visual effects, I'm your guy. Just hit me up. But
I've seen your stuff. Like, it's great. It's really great.
Thanks. But before we wrap this interview up, I do have one last question for you. If you had a dream scenario of two competitors going up against each other that you would cut a promo for,
retired or current,
who would you want to cut promos for? Because I think that's something.
I was really hoping that we would get Smets and Kalinowski again at Spectacular somehow. That was my dream one. Just because the rivalry, that was great, and it was always very easy to edit for them. If it's a dream scenario of someone coming back, trying to think of the stuff like that. I kind of want to see Yeah, and honestly, right now with the material that I have, I really did want to see Roka versus Marl, because like like the story's there, like the stakes are there, and I have a perfect song for it. Like I've had this song for a couple months now, and I was like it's an amazing song, and like I'm saving it for like the right event. And like I was hoping for it. And nothing against Ethan, of course, but I was definitely hoping for Roka to pull it out, because I would had that song ready to go if he was going to face Mortal for the belt, and like it was going to be amazing.
Yeah. Well, never say never. We still got the singles tournament dance.
Yep. Yeah.
So you never know, it might happen. But
that's true.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and end this interview here. Thank you so much for joining us. I would love to sit down with you again, just off air, just pick your brain and talk editing, because your promos have always been top notch, and every time you show up, or every time a match happens, we're like, God, that promo is just so good.
It's like, ooh, I got chills.
Yeah, it's awesome. But
Thanks.
For those who don't know, where can we find you online?
You can find me online at Nerd Chronic, like literally just at like NERD Chronic, CHRONIC. I think I spelled that right. And yes, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. Luckily, I found the brand that was available everywhere, so like that's where you can find me. And on YouTube as well, at Chronic, I just usually upload like my promos there and stuff. And luckily now, I do want to plug the Schmoedown Clips channel that they have, because they are uploading the promos there as well. So like I do want to like shout out to that, because you can find all that stuff there. And I do. There's some shows, people here and there. Like Video Drew's been living with me for the last 7 months, so we do shows in my garage, which is our studio space, which is like the Video Chronic Pop Culture Quiz. It's just like like kind of fun quizzes that we do on movies and shows with our friends and like fans and stuff. Like it's just a good time to hang out, kind of like a more lax trivia space. That's usually where you guys find me.
All right, excellent. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll get back to the show. So thank you again to Nerd Chronic for joining us. It was a very interesting conversation. I just wanted to sit there and talk to him for hours about editing and just pick his brain for it. But we want to have more news like that, because I feel like with that forum we could get to talk to guests more about their experience rather than going over matches with them and get very little time to talk with them about what we really want to talk to them about. Yeah. But I want to get more people like Eric on the show, not necessarily competitors, but behind the scenes type of people. So look forward to more interviews like that. But
lifeblood of the Schmoedown.
Yes, exactly. But moving on to the main event of the Throwdown. Again, spoiler warning. If you have not seen the Throwdown, get out of here.
Unless you want to know, because we're going to tell you.
Yes.
Last warning. Come back later. Smets versus Chandru. Kevin.
The
Smasher Smets.
You blanked on the Smasher?
I did. Kevin the Smasher Smets of the Dungeon versus Chandru the Chosen Dhandapani of Swag.
Really looking forward to this match. This was something that I was looking forward to when they announced it. I was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic, because Chandru was probably the only person besides Kalinowski that Smets had problems with.
Yeah.
He brought him to the brink. He had to go all the way to his 5-pointer for that. So I was really, really excited for this, to see how this match goes down.
Yes. So round 1. Chandru missed a Star Trek actor question. And then there was another question where it was kind of funny. Like Kevin wrote his answer and then he went like this and then went, oh. Oh, yeah. Like he turned his board before the countdown even started. He just was autopilot, just whoop.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that answer that he flipped around was one that got challenged.
Yes. So this is the infamous The Article challenge.
So it was, I don't remember the question, but in any case, Kevin wrote down The Surrogates and Chandru wrote Surrogates. And the, title of the movie is Surrogates. And as soon as Kevin revealed his board, Chandru says, nah, I'd like to challenge that. He said The Surrogates, but it does not have the. It is just Surrogates.
Yes.
Interesting happened during the match, and there's a lot of discussion going on about this. I know how I feel about it. I know how Andrew feels about it. And I've read some things that people have said online that makes me go like, oh, maybe I guess I'm wrong, but whatever. You're allowed to have your opinion. So what happened initially is they deliberated, they came back, and Mark said that they were going to accept it.
the challenge is overruled.
Yes.
Because of, it's like, well, when it comes to the article "the" for a title, if there's not another movie that exists with the same name, either "the" or "that," we'll accept if there's a presence or an absence of the word "the."
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, yeah, so let's go ahead and move on.
So there's no other movie called The Surrogates, and
yeah.
for that reason, it's acceptable because you're not differentiating between two movies.
Mm-hmm.
Two different movies.
Yes.
So initially it said overruled. We're going to give it to Kevin. But Chandru continued to plead his case.
Yes.
And he said, well, a precedent's been set. And then he cited a New York or Atlanta match.
It was the New York match with Janine and Chance, I believe.
And there was some answer that included an article like this.
And I think the point of contention was it was a 2-word title.
But they only wrote down one word or something?
Or something like that. But the point of emphasis was the 2-word title thing where the precedent was set there.
So, like, you can't write down one word for a 2-word title or 2 words for a one-word title.
I think that's what he was saying.
Is the precedent he was trying to refer to?
Yes.
So he pled his case again and referenced that match.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if Winston, added anything. I think it was mainly Chandru.
It was mainly Chandru.
And the judges were like...
And it was
all right.
More specifically, it was Mark Ellis that said, all right, I think we should just go back and look at this and talk about it again.
Exactly.
So
they deliberated again, and they came back and they said, well, based on things in the past, I don't know if he actually was
based on the precedents that have been set in the past and the one match that Chandru had noted.
Yeah. They went ahead and they said, okay, challenge is upheld. And Kevin doesn't get the point. Kevin gets the question wrong.
Yeah, costing him his perfect round.
And Swag gets to keep their challenge.
Yes.
So I've read a couple things online from what people are saying.
Yeah.
There are people on both sides of the fence. And I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to do these kinds of things live.
Yes.
And this was live.
It was live, yes.
If this had been like a pre-taped match,
they could have cut that the middle part out. Yeah.
You got the magic of editing on your side.
Yeah.
But when it's happening and you're live, it's hard. And that is something I do respect and acknowledge. The only thing that doesn't sit right with me is if we're talking about precedents. Now the precedent is set that you can re-challenge your challenge. Like your challenge was already overruled, so you're basically lost your challenge, but you're going to use another challenge.
Yeah.
I do know that there are people on both sides. I do know that there are people online that are like, oh, no, this was right. They made the right choice. They should not have accepted that answer because of A, B, and C. And I'm glad they did it the way they did it. And there's other people that are kind of in the same mindset as us.
Yeah.
Like, no, but they basically used 2 challenges, which... it happened.
It happened.
It happened. It's going to be interesting to see if it has any kind of effect on any future matches. Whenever a rule book does come out, this will probably become irrelevant because then it'll be like, this is the way it is now. But it'll be interesting to see if anything like this happens again where somebody re-challenges a challenge.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe they look at this differently. It's like, all right, now when a challenge comes in, you have to plead your case up front. Give me everything that you're challenging and cite what you're citing. It's like, based off of this match, this is why I'm challenging this. Yeah. And after the decision comes back, you don't get to argue at all.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was a tough spot for Mark to be put in, for Mark and Christian.
Yeah.
I think Mark was mostly the one that was, he was the question answerer and the deliberation deliverer. So I feel like it was mostly directed towards him. But it was a tough situation for him to be put in because you're like, oh, what do I do? All right, we'll deliberate again. It's a tough situation to be put in. I would never want to be there.
Yeah.
But it happened. We move on.
Yeah. I mean, and then, thankfully it didn't have too much of an impact on the match.
No.
Not a huge impact.
Come down to like one
point, yeah.
Well.
It was a 2-point swing because
he could
possibly gotten the extra point.
Yeah.
But it, and I don't fault Chandru for challenging it anyways because, again, we've said before, if there's any sliver of a chance that you can take away points from your opponent,
then try.
You might waste your challenge, but especially from a competitor, going up against a competitor like Smets, you got to take any chance you can. And when we get further into this match, you can see that Chandru played not only a knowledge game, but also like a technical game.
Yeah.
Especially with all the challenges and stuff like that.
Yeah, no. I don't fault him for making the challenge. It's just the way it played out that it's just kind of like,
I have a little bit of issue with them, and
know.
I've already said my piece, but
yeah.
yeah.
So it got upheld. At the end of round 1, it was a tie at 9-9. So round 2, Kevin decides to go first. He gets Wizarding World. It didn't really pan out the way that he would want it to.
Rough second round for him.
So he got Wizarding World. He went to multiple choice once, got it right. He had a 2-point miss that did get stolen.
It's a big one.
And then he went to multiple choice again and missed that one, and that one got stolen.
Yeah.
So that's 3 extra points for Chandru. Chandru goes. He gets Middle Earth. Oh, I forgot about this.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, I don't remember what the actual
Kevin's
answer was.
challenge for
But the challenge. So there was an answer.
What was the answer? It's the answer's on the tip of my tongue.
It was an answer that ended in like THOR. Something Thor. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to try to make it up because I will butcher it and it'll be embarrassing. But it was like a THOR type sound at the end of whatever the answer was. And when Chandru said it, he said it like it almost like a Tor at the end instead of a Thor.
Yeah.
And so Kevin went, I would like to challenge that.
Because he heard
a hard T sound.
And not a TH.
I think I'm getting this right.
Yeah.
It was
a hard.
It was a TH sound at the last syllable, and when Chandru said it, it sounded like a Tor, like a hard T.
A hard T, yeah.
And so Kevin challenged it, and he said, I believe he pronounced it wrong. They deliberated, which, you're just curious how you do that kind of stuff. It's very subjective when you're talking about pronunciation. Oh, what did you hear? What did you hear?
Yeah.
It kind of becomes kind of subjective and
kind of a Tidarium situation.
Well, I wasn't gonna touch that, but, because I don't know if anybody's actually going back and rewatching tape. But
I doubt
it because Twitch is kind of weird.
No, this is on YouTube.
Oh yeah, never mind. I'm still thinking about Star Wars. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's rewatching, going back for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, we went back and I went, DJ, roll that back. I want to hear it again.
Rewound it, yeah.
And we did rewind it. And he did say it with a hard T sound. But I mean, when you talk about somebody who does, to us, have an accent.
Yeah.
To those of us that have sound, very, I don't know, plain.
American.
But America. To us, we don't.
Yeah.
To us, we don't have an accent.
Yeah.
And then when you hear Chandru speak, he does have an accent. Yeah. And so I kind of chalked it up to, no, I think that's just how Chandru pronounces it. I don't think I think he knew the answer. I think that's just the way he says it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it came down to. They came back from deliberation. And they said, no, yeah, we heard him say Thor. Which I was kind of like, well, he did say it with a hard T, so whatever. In any case, it came down to he said it right. We're giving it to him. Yeah. When accents come into play, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt.
You have to roll with the punches.
And Kevin was very gracious about it, and he went, no, I understand. Kind of, if I saw an opportunity and I thought I'd take it.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean any disrespect by it or anything.
Yeah, because that would have been the 2 points that he could have made up.
Yeah.
So
overruled, and Chandru ended up having a perfect round 2. So by the end of round 2, it was 14-22 in favor of Chandru.
Yeah, this is, and Kevin says as much in his post interview that he has trouble over the second round against Chandru specifically for some reason, and this is. This was when we were watching this. I'm like, God, this does not seem like Kevin.
No,
this does not seem like the Kevin that we've seen compete, because usually he's just a monster. Like, yep, this is it. Yep, this is.
And you gotta wonder, is it because he just hasn't competed in so long?
Well, that, or he might have been a little riled from the challenge, because he Kevin's the kind of competitor who's like, I really wanted that perfect round.
Yeah, and when you were that close,
and the way that challenge went down, that has to mess with your head.
Yeah, you're like, all right, yes, I got my perfect round, and then it's just taken away from you just like that. So maybe that got into his head. Who knows? Heading into round 3, this is a 5-rounder. So round 3, the betting round, mixed bag.
Oof.
Was spun.
Yeah.
They got a question about Back to the Future 2. What was something that was abolished in 2015?
Lawyers.
Kevin bet 3. He got it right. Chandru bet 1 and missed it.
Yep. So this is,
narrowed the gap a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good pickup for Kevin.
Yeah, 17-21, still in favor of Chandru. Going into the speed round. Round 4. They both got 9 correct. And they both passed on 1. I don't know why I've said they both passed on 9. So stupid I am. And this was another point of a lot of people's debate. I don't want to go into it too much because I don't even understand it.
Yeah, because I think Chandru was also trying to argue this, and it's like, you can't challenge in this new speed round, which is interesting. It's interesting. I'm not a fan of not being able to challenge something. You should be able to challenge everything, because what happens if for some reason the writers just slip up and they write the answer wrong?
Well, my question is, what happened if the surrogates would have happened in the speed round and you can't challenge it?
Yeah, exactly. You know? So I think you should still be able to challenge it. And you said it yourself, that go through every single question and say, you said this and it's this. Both of you, or go through every answer. So Chandru said this. Both of you said this and you got it right. Both of you said this, you got it right. Chandru said this, you got it wrong. Kevin, you said this and you got it right. And so then you can all see what everybody said. Y'all.
Yeah, you never say y'all. What just happened?
Y'all?
that was gross.
But so you see everything that everybody said, and you can see all the questions. And if something comes up where like, no, he's wrong, I know I'm right, I'm challenging that.
Yeah.
I don't get why you can't challenge in this new. I call it the lightning round, because that's what it is.
I'm not sure either. I'm sure there is rationale behind it.
There is. It's just I don't get it, because what happens if the writers just, and I'm not saying the writers are incompetent. It's just like sometimes they make mistakes. What if they make a mistake in the speed round?
Everybody does.
So, I just don't. I don't personally. I think you should be able to challenge everything in every single round, and that's why I like the traditional buzzer round rather than the lightning round, because I think in the buzzer round you can't challenge. So,
but there was a question that came up about
I
can't even Maria Hill.
How many times is
was it Colby Smulders?
Yeah, Colby Smulders plays. How many times did she play Maria Hill?
And the answer was 6. But was Chandru arguing that it was 5 or 7? It was
5 because in Far From Home, Maria Hill is actually revealed. Spoiler if you haven't seen Far From Home. Maria Hill's actually
switch off if you haven't seen Far From Home.
She's revealed to be
a body snatcher.
Not a body. God, this is why I'm not going to compete in Innergeekdom anytime soon.
Clone.
Yeah, she's a shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter.
God, whatever they're called in whatever. People are gonna murder me in comments. But she's revealed, and technically, so it's not Maria Hill, but it's
played by Colby
Smulders. So that's why it's 6.
Yeah.
So, and throughout the entire movie, you're to believe that it's Maria Hill.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day,
it's still
the actress still portrays
her. So,
but I guess their argument is that, well, yeah, it was still the actress, but she wasn't actually portraying Maria Hill. She was portraying a shapeshifter. Well, so that's really, really getting into the weeds. But
it's like, just play the game, guys. Come on.
There's always going to be a debate somewhere. Yeah. Some people are going to be more passionate about it than others. I know I've been there. I just don't feel passionate about this one because I don't know what they're talking about. But, had it been a Star Wars question, call me up. But yeah, this one, I don't know. In any case, it was kind of a wash. They both ended up getting the same amount of questions right. So there was the same gap of a lead by the end of round 4. Yeah,
basically a wash.
So by the end so now we go into round 5, the final round. Kevin goes first with his 2-pointer. He gets Marvel. Who plays Moira in 2 X-Men movies?
Oh, Moira McTaggart?
Sure, maybe. I didn't write down the answer.
Rose Byrne.
Oh, Rose Byrne, yes. Get him to the Greek. So he got it right. And then Kevin, his 3-pointer, he got Who Said It? Which Marvel character said something about, blah, 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 blah. What if we got these powers for a reason?
Yeah, from Fantastic Four.
Was it the Flash? No, the Human Torch.
Human Torch said it, but he says Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. And he took a swing and missed.
So he got it wrong.
And it's I think Who Said It is actually being revealed that Kevin actually doesn't like Who Said It. And we said it before, in any division, Who Said It is difficult.
It's tough. Yeah. It's really tough. I mean, it could be any movie. It could be any little stupid, obscure line.
Especially when you get out of the specialized divisions, it's like,
yeah.
I have no idea how to
crazy.
Do that. Yeah.
It's like mixed bag, but like multiplied.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no thanks. So Kevin gets his 5-pointer. He gets heroes. In Captain America, what's the name of the super soldier experiment that makes Steve Rogers into Captain America? And he was just like,
boom,
bam,
got
it.
I mean, he lives in 5-pointers. Come on.
So he got it. He got it right with ease, with finesse.
Yeah.
So it bounces back to Chandru for his 2-pointer. He gets Wizarding World, the name of Harry's aunt, or something to that effect. He got it right. 3-pointer for Chandru. He gets DCEU. And Shazam. How many people live at the foster home after Billy becomes a member of the family? And 8. And he got it right.
Yep.
So at the end of the match, we have a new Innergeekdom champion, 33-35 in favor of Chandru, the chosen Dhandapani.
New Innergeekdom champion, and for whatever reason, the IG belt is just insanely hard to defend.
Super hard to defend.
Like, there's only, and I have to correct myself from the last show because you said that it has been defended before. You just couldn't remember who, and it was Jason Inman defended against what's his name? No.
Donica.
Donica. Yeah, I completely forgot about Donica.
Also, just I didn't remember that. I read somebody that said that. I didn't remember.
Correction from last episode. Yeah, so the IG belt has been defended by Navarro and Inman, and after that, nobody's. It's been ping ponged back and forth between people. It was Inman, then to Mara, then to Mike, then to Rachel, then to Mike, then to Kevin, and now to Chandru. So for whatever reason, it's like the curse of the IG belt now. It's like you can win it. It's insanely hard to win, but it's twice as hard to defend for some reason.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look at the last 2 title matches. You see Mike, and it was just like, oh man, what happened to Mike?
Exactly.
And you see this one, you're like, oh man,
what happened to Kevin?
Kev, oh no. So it is interesting. You know, it's a hard belt to defend. So we're gonna see Chandru
go up against Chance Ellison.
In Spectacular. But there is going to be some sort of rumored.
It's not confirmed.
You know.
But I wouldn't put it past Christian to put Kevin Smets against Mike Kalinowski, the loser of the tournament, and the last one to hold, and the loser of this title match to go up against each other in the number 1 contender match.
Yeah.
Winner of that will most likely face the winner of the Spectacular match. I can
sense.
totally see that that's not confirmed, but Christian has said don't rule out another IG match before Spectacular,
which is awesome. Because give me more.
Yeah, give me more. And Kevin, Kevin wants to just get right back into it.
Oh yeah.
Because just watching him during this post match interview, it's like, dude, man, that's rough. Because what went into winning that belt. Yeah. And then preparing to defend it, but Chandru came to play. Swag is on this insane run right now. They're the hot hand right now. And with this win, they take sole possession of first place, a 1-point lead in the standings, for now.
Yeah, for now.
For now, it's only 1 point, and kudos to them because when we say we mean the Finstock Exchange have been on top for, God, when was the last time we weren't on top? I can't even remember. So, and I've done my part to keep us on top. Craig has been doing his part in the IG tournament to keep us on top. It's just after those 2 tournaments, we weren't playing much. Yeah. The last match for the exchange was the number 1 contender match last week. Yeah. And we couldn't pick any points up there, but now we have Merle next week. And that's a title match, so we can take back the lead next week. Yeah. So, but Swag has the hot hand right now.
Oh yeah. I feel like right now it's Corruption and Swag are hot. Yeah. So hot right now, Hansel.
Yeah. And it's
hot little potatoes.
Yeah, and Winston is making a really big, he's building his resume for Manager of the Year. Oh yeah. And right now, if you said the season ends right now, who's Manager of the Year?
Oh, for sure, 100% Winston would get it.
You have to go Winston. I'm like, he's, he managed Ace to a championship tournament win in Star Wars, and now he managed Chandru to an IG win for the title. So yeah, I mean, they've got the hot hand right now, and we'll see. But people are like, "Oh yeah, it's over." People. This recency bias is such a thing in the Schmoedown. Oh my God, yeah. It's like, "Oh, it's over." Oh man, look how the mighty have fallen. It's like we still have Merle next week. We still have the teams
Still
belts to
two
defend.
gigantic
Two
tournaments.
gigantic tournaments.
And spectacular.
So let's see where we're at. And if for some reason we're not in first place, we don't end up on. Well, I'll eat my words. But there's still plenty of matches to be played. For all we know, Swag might choke in the singles and teams tournament.
Who knows?
For all we know, we might choke in the tournament. For all we know, Corruption might choke in the first round. Who knows?
The dungeon might like come out of nowhere and win everything.
Exactly. This singles tournament is set up to where nobody's out of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can come from behind and don't do that and rocket themselves to the top. So still plenty of matches to be played. It's just it's harder for like who's on the bottom right now? Not Corruption.
No, like the dungeon. I think Usual Suspects might be.
The dungeon's in 4th place, and then it's
Mercs.
The Mercs aren't looking good, but they have a match next week. But the dungeon's
hurting a little bit
with
right
this
now.
loss. It's even they have almost the impossible task of winning the season now.
Yeah,
they're almost completely out of it.
Yeah,
and it sucks that your number 1 pick with Kevin Smets got you 0 points.
It does suck.
And if he doesn't have that match with Mike at some point before the season ends, that's the last we see of Kevin Smets. I don't want that to happen. I hope they have this match against Mike.
I hope so.
I really hope so, just to give Kevin a chance to put some points on the board.
It just sucks because when you do hold the belt, it's like everything rides on this one match. At least if you're contending for a belt, you have chances for points, on your road there. But if you're the champ, it's like, well, this is my shot.
Yeah, and you're
lose.
a 1 division player champ. You know what I mean? Like you could have swung it. You could put Kevin in a singles, but do you want him to focus on singles when he needs to focus on defending the belt?
I wouldn't.
So that's the gamble that they had. I mean, like now Kaiser's looking like a big old fool. It's like, look what you did, and it did not pan out.
Yeah, but I mean, if you think about what Christian said, everybody looks at Kaiser like, God, what a buffoon to do what he did. He took a chance.
Yeah.
Imagine if it did work, we'd all be heralding him as a genius.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes sometimes when you gamble, you lose, my blue friend. So, it just didn't work out for him this time. He took a big chance, didn't work out, could have, and then he would be the genius of the Schmoedown. He'd be manager of the year. So it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah. But as far as Chandru goes, man, he looked really good. And I said that he not only studied for this and knew a lot, he knew a lot of stuff, but he played that technical game with his challenges, and he was throughout the entire. He's almost telling Mark and Christian how to run the thing. It's like, no, he should be doing this because of this, and like they need to be out here. It's like, dude, just play the game.
Yeah.
And like I don't fault him for that because you got to take every single opportunity you can, especially against Kevin Smets.
Yeah.
But he played not only a great knowledge game, he played an absolutely almost near perfect technical game too, because he
played really well
on it for every single moment. But yeah, kudos to Chandru. Congratulations to Chandru on becoming Naiju champ.
That's a hard belt to get.
It's one hard, but now it's the test. Like, can you defend it against a really hot hand with Chance right now?
That's gonna be
interesting.
A hell of a match. That's gonna be real good. I really am excited for that match.
Yeah, I am too, because who would have thought that we would saw Chandru Dhandapani versus Chance Ellison at Spectacular for the IG belt?
No,
I would have never. It's like, well, okay, Chandru I could see there, but like Chance Ellison's like, what?
Yeah, when did Chance start playing IG?
Yeah. So
no, I don't think anybody really saw this matchup
super
coming.
Excited for that. But yeah, that was the Throwdown.
Yes.
Anything else that we have to talk about before we get into predictions for next week?
Well, I'm trying to look up what's happening.
So next week we have the undercard for
Throwdown. We also have a bunch of singles.
Oh, do
matches.
we?
Yeah, we do.
Jeez.
What's today? The day we're recording this. Sorry, it's the 10th.
Yeah. Sorry.
So tomorrow, August 11th. Today is the day you're listening to this. Right?
We'll get to it. So just
I don't know.
So just say the date.
August 11th. August 11th. You got Andres, the Ghost Gallego. I'm gonna assume it's Gallego, not Gallego, right? I'm gonna go ahead and try to sound.
You speak Spanish.
Like I know. Well, that's up for debate. I don't have anybody to speak it to, so I'm kind of rusty. Yeah. But Andres, the Ghost Gallego of the Dungeon versus Adam, the Coyote Collins. Oh wait, who is Adam Collins? Why does that sound familiar?
I think he's a fan leader. I don't know.
Maybe. Adam the Coyote Collins of Corruption.
And these are 2 rookies.
I want to say this is probably a play-in match.
Yeah.
So, and then on August 12th, we've got Frank Bam Bam Moran of Swag versus James the Wizard White of the Den. Lots of hype around this guy.
Yeah.
So we'll see how James White does because,
Yeah, and these play-ins and these rookies, I have nothing to say about them because
I'm not really familiar with the fan leagues, if I'm going to be totally honest.
Yeah.
So I don't really have much to say. It would
yeah,
just be
but
kind
the
of
one-
picking.
yeah.
I like your nickname better than your nickname kind of thing.
But the one to look at is the James White because he was drafted by Burnett and then traded in that infamous trade for
Ken?
no
No.
with Hannah.
Oh.
The trade with Hannah, I believe. Yeah, it was, and that's who the Den got. And this is interesting because if James White isn't on the Den, do we put Goddard in that spot?
Yeah.
Who knows? So a lot of eyes on James White to perform.
Eyes on James White. He's got a lot of chatter
Yes.
going around him. And then August 13th, we got Lady Justice Marisol McKee of Corruption versus Bonnie the Smoke Show Somerville
Have we seen
of the Burning Droogs.
Have we seen Marisol
I
McKee?
don't believe we have.
Okay, so that's another person that I just don't know about.
Yeah, I
And
don't
then-
believe we've seen Marisol, but I do want to say she's a fan leaguer.
Yeah. But,
And I do believe I've heard great things about her. I mean, I don't think she'd be in this tournament if people weren't saying great things about her. So,
but of course, going up against Bonnie Somerville,
Bonnie
which
it's Bonnie Somerville.
what kind of
Somerville.
What kind of Bonnie are we gonna get though? Because
Exactly.
that
What's the joke? Herder, will she even
will
show
she
up?
even show up? But
So yeah, we'll see what happens.
See what happens with those.
We got a week full of Schmoedown. So that's the 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Oh my god.
And then there's a.
We're gonna have such a busy show next week. I was thinking about bringing on a guest. I'm like, nope, we don't have time for it.
Then on Friday, what's Friday's date?
Friday
The
is
14th.
Another throwdown.
Another throwdown. It's a big
Like,
throwdown.
we might as well split the show up into two and do. That's probably what we'll do.
Maybe
we'll
we
do 2
will.
parts because there's just so much to talk about.
There is so much. So
We'll see.
on
Stay
Friday, throwdown, we've got the undercard with Final Exam winning this match.
Passing their exam.
So yeah, Final Exam will go against Shazam for the undercard. That's going to be great.
So excited to see Shazam again.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait to see if Lon and Paul can keep this streak up. Cannot wait to see William and Brennan together again.
It's been a while since we've seen both of them.
A treat
Yes.
to watch play. So very excited for that. And then the
main event.
Main event is Dan Murrell defending his title against Ethan Big Time Irwin.
And they've both, with their history, they've both won against each other before. So this is sort of like winner, like the winner is the winner, basically. So
At least of this set, yeah.
I'm not gonna give predictions because so far the people that predicted have lost.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna give predictions, but I will give. So for the undercard, the Shazam versus Final Exam, if Final Exam can continue this momentum into this match, which they probably can because Swag has the hot hand right now, and it's been a while. The last time we saw Shazam on stage was at the beginning of the season.
And like I said, they weren't even playing as Shazam. They were playing as individuals.
Yeah.
So they really weren't working with each other.
So, I mean, it's hard to bet against Bibiani. I mean, former champion.
And Brennan is just a natural.
Yeah.
He's just really good at this. They have really, really good chemistry.
Fantastic chemistry.
So,
yeah.
But
I'd like to
they haven't played together in a while.
Yeah, I would like to see how they're going to... Because Bibbs is going to want to try to do some kind of fancy entrance. I wonder what they're going to try to do.
I hope he tries. I do.
And it's live, so it's not like you can edit in your thing. So
that's true.
So I'm curious to see, because Bibbs always likes to put on a show.
I hope he does. That would be a fun, surprise diversion, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this week, oh boy. Lots of Schmoedown going on, but
with the main...
That's fine by me, baby.
The main event, Dan Murrell, dangerous Dan Murrell.
Dangerous Dan Murrell.
Of what faction?
The Finstock Exchange.
Finstock Exchange defends that title.
Yeah.
I mean,
against Ethan Big Time
Big Time
Irwin.
Irwin. This is gonna be
usual.
He's usual suspects.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
I was just
this
scared
is
to
gonna
say it
be
in case I was wrong.
Yeah, this is a big match.
Oh yeah.
This Friday, if you are not a patron, $10 tier, what are you doing? Because this is the third pay-per-view we've gotten in the past weeks.
And this is going to be a tremendous throwdown.
Tremendous
As if the
throwdown.
last one wasn't.
Yeah.
But this one's going to be
I
tremendous.
mean, if you were gonna like not be a patron and just pay for the pay-per-view as they come out, this is the one to do it. Because wow, this card, when I heard the card, I'm like, wow, yeah, this should be a live event. Like,
yeah.
Like freaking, like, you know what I mean? But obviously COVID can't do it. But this is a tremendous card. Like, unreal.
I can't wait.
I cannot wait. But
Oh my god! And also, I just can't get enough of Lon Harris and his character. It's just
yeah. But
so good.
it's been a while since we've seen Dan play. But I assume after that guy match, he's like, ring rust will not be a thing.
Yeah. I refuse to let it be a thing. I'm not
So,
letting anybody jump
we're
on any
obs-
more tables after beating me.
Yeah. So we're not giving predictions, but obviously we're cheering for Dan. Obviously, Finstock Exchange. Come on now.
Yeah.
So those are the cards for next week. I think
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and wrap up the show already because with the interview that we did with Nerd Chronic, thank you again for him for joining us
Yes,
for that
thank
talk. It was
you.
such a fun time. I like that format of bringing people in that way and
Yeah.
have it like a clip out.
That
for
way they're
interviews.
not sitting there while I'm reading crap
Yeah,
off
and
my
we get to
phone.
talk to them about what we want to talk to about them.
Yeah.
Talk with them about.
Unless it's a competitor and we're talking about their match, then they
Yeah.
might want to talk about their match, but whatever.
But whatever. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode of Beyond the Schmoedown up. Nicki Dimalanta, where can they find you online?
You can find me on the internet on Twitter at Demi DIMMYYY.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Drew Dimalanta, DIMALANTA. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification to be updated when we upload to the channel. Again, sorry for this one going up late.
Sorry.
Life happens.
Yeah. It happened hard.
And if you're listening to this on audio form, head over to Apple Podcasts and rate us and help support the show. If you want to support us other than liking and commenting and doing all that stuff, consider joining the Patreon, patreon.com/Andrew and Nikki. Become a member of the squadron. And speaking of the squadron, thank you to our squadron captains, Tamara Bada, Ferris Mathana, Josh Estes, and she's back, Bidor. Welcome back to the,
all
to the
right.
captain. Thank you again to our squadron captains for all your continued support. With that, we're going to wrap the show up. Thank you again for joining us on this episode of Beyond the Schmoedown. We will see you next time.